What would you do if you suddenly recognized your high school crush? The one who once mocked you, now homeless with twin daughters on the streets. Everyone says you should just walk away. After all, karma's a mirror that never lies. But what if I told you that one decision could transform not just her broken life, but also heal your own wounded heart in ways you never thought possible? This isn't just another rags-to-riches fairy tale. It's a raw journey through abandonment, second chances, and the courage to trust again when everything screams, don't. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more life-changing stories that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about forgiveness. The rain fell mercilessly across the financial district as Ethan Reynolds stood beneath his building's awning, waiting for his driver. At 42, he had achieved everything society deemed worthy: CEO of Reynolds Enterprises, immense wealth, and a reputation for ruthless business acumen. Yet something felt hollow in his chest. The quarterly reports had exceeded expectations, another acquisition finalized, victories that once would have filled him with satisfaction, but now barely registered. Impatient, Ethan stepped into the rain with his umbrella. He would walk the 6 blocks to his dinner reservation. Perhaps the exercise would clear his head. He almost walked past them, but a child's whimper caught his attention. Beneath a bookstore's overhang sat a woman with 2 small children pressed against her sides. "Please," she whispered to one child, "someone will help us soon. I promise." "Lily!" The voice struck Ethan like a physical blow. "Madison!" The woman's head snapped up, her once bright eyes now dulled by circumstance, widening in shock as they met his. Madison Wilson, the girl who had occupied his teenage thoughts, who had barely noticed him except to mock his awkward attempts for attention. Now here she sat, designer clothes replaced by a worn jacket, 2 little twin girls beside her wearing mismatched clothing. One child sobbed quietly, while the other stared with eyes too solemn for her age. "Ethan Reynolds," Madison said, her voice mixing disbelief and mortification. "Of all the people, what happened?" he asked, his voice softer than intended. Madison looked away, pride sharp in her profile despite her circumstances. "Nothing that would interest you. Please, just go." But Ethan couldn't move. The hollow feeling in his chest had transformed into an ache as he took in the scene. This woman who once seemed untouchable, now defeated by life, children shivering against her. "Come with me," he said, extending his hand, "all of you. We don't need your charity. It's not charity, it's raining. Your daughters are cold, and I have space. That's all this needs to be right now." For a long moment, Madison didn't move. Then the little girl named Lily coughed, a small, painful sound that seemed to decide the matter. With visible reluctance, Madison nodded. "Just until the rain stops," she said, struggling to her feet. Ethan's black Bentley appeared, and as they settled into the leather interior, he caught his reflection in the window. Behind the successful businessman, he glimpsed the shadow of the invisible boy he had once been, staring in disbelief at the turn his evening had taken. "Where to, sir?" the driver asked. "Home, James, we're going home." When the Bentley turned through ornate iron gates and proceeded up a winding driveway, Madison's composure cracked. "Where are we?" "My home," Ethan replied simply, understating the grandeur of the Georgian mansion that appeared before them. As the car stopped, Mrs. Martinez, Ethan's housekeeper, opened the front door, her normally impassive face showing surprise at the sight of guests. "Mrs. Martinez, please prepare the blue guest suite," Ethan said as he helped Madison and the still sleeping children, "and perhaps some hot chocolate." Madison stood frozen on the threshold. "I can't. This is too much. It's just a roof." "And some hot chocolate," Ethan countered gently. "Nothing more complicated than that tonight." Something in his tone seemed to ease her resistance. Madison nodded and followed him into the warm foyer, where crystal chandeliers cast a soft glow over marble floors. Mrs. Martinez led them to the blue suite, consisting of a sitting room with a crackling fire, a master bedroom, and 2 smaller adjoining rooms. Madison settled one daughter onto the bed, while Ethan gently placed the other beside her sister. "They're twins?" Ethan asked quietly as they stepped into the sitting room. Madison nodded, sinking into an armchair with visible exhaustion. Sophia. And Lily, they're 3.5. I'll have Mrs. Martinez bring up some clothes, he said, for all of you, and food. Madison's hands tightened in her lap. Why are you doing this? The question was direct, her gaze suddenly piercing. Ethan considered his answer carefully. I don't know, he admitted. When I saw you there, something just clicked. I couldn't walk away. So this is pity, then? No, Ethan said firmly. This is humanity, something I may have forgotten about in recent years. After Mrs. Martinez brought a tray of hot chocolate and sandwiches, Ethan rose to leave. So you should rest. We can talk more tomorrow. Madison looked up at him, conflict evident. I don't understand you, Ethan Reynolds. The boy I knew would never have... She stopped abruptly. Would never have helped you? Ethan finished, no bitterness in his tone. People change, sometimes for the better. Good night, Ethan, and thank you. He closed the door gently, standing for a moment in the silent corridor. For the first time in years, the hollow feeling in his chest had eased, replaced by a warmth that had nothing to do with fine brandy and everything to do with the family, now sheltered within his walls. Morning light filtered through gauzy curtains as Madison woke, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar surroundings. The plush mattress beneath her was a stark contrast to the makeshift beds and shelters that had been her reality for months. After dressing in clothes Mrs. Martinez had provided, Madison led the twins downstairs to breakfast. Sophia bounced ahead while Lily held tightly to Madison's hand. Are you the king of this castle? Sophia asked Ethan, who sat reading at the breakfast table. Ethan looked up, surprise giving way to a warm smile. No, just the caretaker. You must be Sophia. How did you know? Magic, Ethan said solemnly, before winking at Madison. Good morning. I hope you all slept well? Better than we have in a long time, Madison admitted. The breakfast that followed felt surreal in its normalcy. Fresh orange juice, pancakes shaped like animals for the girls, eggs and bacon for the adults. When Mrs. Martinez took the girls to explore the garden, Ethan finally broached the subject Madison had been dreading. Madison, I don't want to pry, but I'd like to understand what happened. How did you end up? He trailed off. On the street. Madison finished, a defensive edge creeping into her voice. It's not a complicated story. I made bad choices, trusted the wrong person, and everything fell apart. She explained briefly about Tyler Davis, the high school football captain, who had disappeared when she told him she was pregnant, how her parents had withdrawn support, how she had managed alone until losing her job, unable to pay rent, and eventually running out of places to stay. I'm sorry, Ethan said simply. That shouldn't have happened to you. Madison stiffened. I don't want your pity, Ethan. It's not pity, he insisted. It's recognition of how unfair life can be. Even for successful CEOs? Madison asked, bitterly. Perhaps especially for us. Success can be as precarious as failure, just with better window dressing. Before she could respond, Ethan continued. I'd like to help you get back on your feet. Not temporarily, but properly, a new start. Madison felt her walls rising higher. Why? We weren't friends, Ethan. I was terrible to you in school. That was a lifetime ago, Ethan replied. We were children. Still, you don't owe me anything. Ethan leaned forward, his gaze direct. This isn't about debt. It's about doing what's right because I can. You and your daughters need help. I have the means to provide it. Madison wanted to believe him, but years of disappointment had taught her that nothing came without a price. What do you want in return? She asked bluntly. The hurt that flashed across Ethan's face made Madison regret her question, but she held her ground. Nothing, he said firmly. I want nothing except the chance to help. Stay here as long as you need. There are no strings, Madison, no expectations. I don't know if I can trust that, she admitted. Not because of you, but because life has taught me otherwise. Ethan nodded, understanding in his expression. Then don't trust my words. Trust what you see over time. No pressure, no rush, no demands. Just a safe place for you and your daughters, until you decide what comes next. I need to think about it, she said finally. Of course, Ethan agreed, rising. Take all the time you need. Through the window, Madison could see Sophia and Lily in the garden with Mrs. Martinez, their faces alight with joy. It had been so long since she had seen them truly carefree, unburdened by adult concerns. For them, she thought. Not for herself, but for them. Perhaps she could accept Ethan's help. Not forever, but until she could stand on her own again and provide the stability they deserved. 1 week after their arrival, Madison found herself in the estate's library, trailing her fingertips along the spines of classics she had once loved, before life had narrowed her world to the immediate concerns of survival. Find something that interests you. Ethan's voice startled her from her reverie. Madison turned, a copy of Persuasion still in her hand. I was just looking. It's been a long time since I've had the luxury of reading for pleasure. Ethan entered, shirt sleeves rolled up, looking more relaxed than she had yet seen him. That was always my mother's favorite, he said. She used to say it was the most honest love story ever written, about second chances and wiser hearts. They settled by the fireplace, sharing personal details neither had known about the other. Ethan spoke of his parents, his demanding father, his mother who had bridged their misunderstandings. Madison mentioned her own parents' rejection when she'd announced her pregnancy. The girls seemed to be settling in well, Ethan observed, changing the subject with sensitivity Madison appreciated. Lily showed me a drawing she made of the house. This morning, Madison laughed, a sound that surprised her with its ease. She's always had an imagination. Sophia is the practical one. She was explaining to Mrs. Martinez yesterday how the refrigerator works, based entirely on her own theories, about cold fairies who live inside it. They're remarkable children, Ethan said with genuine admiration. You've done an incredible job with them, especially given the circumstances. The compliment warmed Madison, but also highlighted the precariousness of their situation. As if reading her thoughts, Ethan leaned forward, his expression growing more serious. Madison, I've been thinking about your situation, and I have a proposal. Wariness immediately replaced her momentary comfort. What kind of proposal? Not the kind that comes with strings, he assured her. I was wondering if you might consider going back to school, to finish your degree. The suggestion was so unexpected that Madison could only stare at him. School? Ethan, I have 2 3-year-olds, and no money. School isn't exactly a priority right now. But it could be, he countered gently. You were studying business administration before, weren't you? Before I dropped out to have the twins, yes. What if you could resume your studies? The girls could stay here with Mrs. Martinez when you need to attend classes, and there's plenty of space for you to study. Madison shook her head, the fantasy too fragile to entertain. Even if that were logistically possible, there's the small matter of tuition, living expenses, childcare. All taken care of, Ethan said simply. Absolutely not, Madison's response was immediate. I won't be your charity case. It wouldn't. Be charity, Madison. Think of it as an investment. In what? In potential. In someone who deserves a chance to finish what she started. In 2 little girls who should have every opportunity to see their mother succeed on her own terms. The words struck a chord within Madison. How many nights had she lain awake, wondering what example she was setting for her daughters? Ethan tried a different approach. What if it were a loan? One that you could repay once you've established yourself in a career. We could draw up terms, make it official. The suggestion held appeal, offering dignity along with opportunity, a path that didn't require complete surrender of her independence. Why would you do this? Madison asked, still uncertain. Because I remember the Madison Wilson who was going to conquer the world, the one who gave that speech at graduation about education being the key to unlocking every door. I think that Madison is still there, beneath the hardships, and she deserves the chance to find her way back to those dreams. A lump formed in Madison's throat as memories surfaced of who she had been before life had worn her down. Confident, ambitious, full of plans. I don't know if I can, she admitted vulnerably. It's been so long, and I'm not that person anymore. Maybe not exactly the same person, Ethan acknowledged, but possibly someone even stronger with greater perspective and deeper wisdom, someone who has faced real challenges and survived them. His faith in her was both humbling and empowering. Madison looked down at the novel in her hands, its theme of second chances suddenly resonant. "I'll think about it," she said finally. "That's all I ask," Ethan replied. "And Madison, whatever you decide, you and the girls are welcome here for as long as you need. No conditions." As he rose to leave, Madison found herself believing him, not with blind trust, but with a cautious openness to the possibility that sometimes help could come without hidden agendas. That sometimes second chances didn't only exist in books. The campus of Westlake University hummed with the energy of a new semester. Madison stood at the edge of this familiar yet foreign landscape, her heart pounding with a mixture of exhilaration and terror. 3 months had passed since the rainy night when Ethan had found her. 3 months in which Madison had moved from reluctant acceptance of his offer to cautious embrace of the opportunity. Now, on the first day of fall semester, she was officially a student again. "You're going to be late if you keep standing there," came Ethan's voice from behind her, gentle amusement coloring his tone. Madison turned to see him leaning against his car, having insisted on driving her despite her protests that she could take the bus. "I'm just taking it in," she explained. "It feels like stepping into a parallel universe where my life took a different turn." "Not a different universe," Ethan corrected. "Just a delayed chapter in the same story." The perspective shift was powerful. Madison nodded, drawing a deep breath. "The girls will be perfectly fine with Mrs. Martinez," Ethan assured her. "They were already planning their baking project when I left. Something involving alarming amounts of sprinkles." The image made Madison smile despite her nerves. Sophia and Lily had blossomed during their time at Reynolds Manor, their once solemn faces now frequently alight with joy. "Thank you," Madison said, the words inadequate for her gratitude, "for all of this. This is all you, Madison. I just cleared a few obstacles. You're the one doing the walking." The campus clock tower chimed the quarter hour, reminding Madison that her first class, Business Ethics and Leadership, would begin in 15 minutes. "Go," Ethan urged with an encouraging smile. "Conquer the academic world. I'll pick you up at 4. With a quick nod and a deeper breath, Madison stepped fully onto campus. Each step felt significant, a deliberate movement away from the woman who had lost everything and toward the woman she was determined to become. The lecture hall was already half full when Madison entered. She slid into a spot near the back, arranging her notebook with meticulous care. "First day?" asked the young woman who took the seat beside her, her smile friendly beneath a shock of purple-streaked hair. Madison nodded, feeling simultaneously ancient and impossibly young. "That obvious, huh? Only because you look like you're contemplating either flight or combat," the woman replied with a chuckle. "I'm Zoe, second-year business major. Madison, just trying to finish what I started a while ago." Before they could continue, Professor Eleanor Grant entered, a woman in her 50s with a silver pixie cut and confident stride. "Welcome to Business Ethics and Leadership," she began. "So I'm Professor Grant. If you're here expecting an easy credit or rules for the appearance of ethical behavior while you maximize profit at all costs, I suggest you find the door now." Her directness commanded immediate attention. Madison found herself sitting straighter, drawn to the professor's unapologetic presence. The lecture that followed was challenging and engaging. When Professor Grant posed questions about a pharmaceutical company's pricing strategies, Madison found herself raising her hand. "The issue isn't just about short-term profit versus public good," Madison said when called upon. "It's about long-term sustainability. Her company that prioritizes immediate gains over accessibility is essentially sacrificing its future market. People remember who was there for them in times of need and who wasn't." Professor Grant's expression showed genuine interest. "An excellent point, Ms. Wilson." Madison Wilson. When the lecture concluded, Professor Grant asked Madison to stay. "Your contributions today were thoughtful," she said without preamble. "You brought a perspective many of your classmates lack, real-world experience and maturity." "Thank you," Madison replied, unsure where the conversation was heading. "You're a returning student?" "Yes, I had to drop out several years ago due to personal circumstances." Professor Grant nodded, requiring no explanation. Well, I'm glad. You've found your way back. Too often in business education, we focus on theory to the exclusion of practical wisdom. Your voice will be valuable in our discussions. The simple acknowledgement of her worth as a student sent a warm current of validation through Madison. By 4 o'clock, Madison felt mentally exhausted but spiritually invigorated. She spotted Ethan's car as she exited the business building. He stood waiting beside it, having clearly stepped away from important meetings to personally collect her. So, he inquired as she approached, how was it? Madison couldn't contain her smile. It was exactly where I'm supposed to be. Challenging and intimidating, and absolutely right. The answering smile that lit Ethan's features held a warmth that had become increasingly familiar. I knew it would be. Ready to go home and tell the girls about your first day? Home. The word settled around Madison with unexpected comfort. Not her home, not permanently, she reminded herself, but for now, Reynolds Manor had indeed become a place of safety and new beginnings. 2 months into her return to university, Madison was adjusting to the demanding rhythm of student life while remaining present for her daughters. The balance was precarious, requiring late-night study sessions after the girls were asleep and careful coordination with Mrs. Martinez. One Saturday morning in late October, as Madison helped Lily cut Halloween shapes from orange construction paper while simultaneously reviewing notes for an upcoming exam, Lily looked up with solemn eyes. "Mommy, can Ethan be our daddy?" The question froze Madison's hands. "What? Lily, why would you ask that?" Sophia chimed in from where she was making dinosaur-shaped cookies with Mrs. Martinez. "Because he takes care of us, like Janie's daddy takes care of her. He reads stories and makes pancakes on Sundays and knows how to fix my toys when they break." Janie was a friend from the playgroup the twins had recently joined, another stabilizing element arranged by Ethan. The comparison highlighted the growing attachment the girls had formed. "Ethan is our friend," Madison explained carefully. "A very good friend who helps us, but being a daddy is different." "How?" Lily persisted, genuinely confused. "Well, daddies and mommies usually love each other in a special way, and they decide together to be parents." "Do you love Ethan in the special way?" Sophia asked, hitting directly on the question Madison had been avoiding. Before Madison could respond, footsteps on the stairs announced Ethan's return from his morning meetings. He had changed into casual clothes, looking relaxed in a way his business suits never achieved. "Ready for our costume adventure?" he asked, either not noticing or tactfully ignoring the tension in Madison's posture. The Halloween store was a riot of color and creativity. The twins moved through the displays with wide-eyed wonder, occasionally calling out discoveries to Ethan, who responded with enthusiasm regardless of whether the costume was a sparkly unicorn or a gruesome zombie. Madison trailed behind them, her mind preoccupied with her daughter's unexpected questions. Watching Ethan with them, his patience as Sophia tried on every tiara in the princess section, his gentle encouragement when Lily was too shy to model a butterfly costume, Madison was forced to acknowledge what had been gradually becoming evident. Ethan had indeed taken on a paternal role in the girls' lives. The realization was both warming and alarming. Warming because her daughters deserved such care. Alarming because it represented another layer of dependence on a man whose place in their future remained undefined. "Madison," Ethan's voice broke. Through her reverie, "the girls have narrowed it down to their final choices. They want your approval." Madison refocused to find Sophia proudly modeling an astronaut costume complete with helmet, while Lily twirled hesitantly in butterfly wings. "Ah, you both look absolutely perfect," Madison said truthfully. "Is this what you want to be for Halloween?" As Ethan helped the girls out of their costumes for purchase, Madison wandered a few steps away, examining a display of adult masks. She felt a strange kinship with the disguises. Hadn't she been wearing her own mask of composed gratitude, concealing complicated emotions? "See anything you like?" Ethan asked, appearing beside her. "I haven't thought about a costume for myself," Madison replied. "I'm not sure I'll have time with midterms that week." Ethan studied her for a moment, his perception uncomfortably acute. "Is everything okay? You've seemed distracted since we left the house." The question felt like pressure on a bruise. "The girls asked if you could be their daddy," she said, abruptly. Ethan's expression registered surprise, then something between hope and hesitation. "I see," he said carefully. "And what did you tell them?" "That you're our friend, a good friend who helps us." Madison's tone was defensive, though Ethan hadn't challenged her response. He nodded slowly, his gaze drifting to where the twins were giggling at a motion-activated skeleton. "They're looking for permanence," he observed. "Stability. It's natural at their age, especially given what they've been through." "I know that," Madison replied sharply. "But I can't let them build expectations that might not be fulfilled. They've had enough disappointment already." The implication hung between them that Ethan himself might be a temporary fixture, someone who would eventually grow tired of playing benefactor. "Madison, I hope you know that I—" "Ethan! Mommy! The skeleton can dance!" Sophia's excited call interrupted. "Come see?" The moment broken, Ethan offered Madison a small smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "We should probably go see this dancing skeleton. It sounds like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." That evening, after the twins were asleep, Ethan sought Madison out in the library, where she had established her usual study spot. "About what happened at the store today," he began. "I think we should talk about it." Madison tensed. "Ethan, I'm sorry about what the girls said. They're young and they don't understand the complexities of our situation." "Do we?" he asked quietly. "Understand them, I mean." The question hung between them, loaded with implications neither had directly addressed. Madison sat down, her tea forcing herself to meet his gaze. "I know that you've been incredibly generous," she said carefully, "and that the girls have become attached to you in ways I should have anticipated. But I can't afford to let them or myself forget that this is temporary, that eventually we'll need to stand on our own." "Is that what you think this is for me? A temporary charity project?" "Isn't it?" Madison challenged. "A good deed. That makes you feel better about your privileges." The words were harsher than intended. Ethan flinched slightly but didn't retreat. "Is that really how you see me, Madison? After all these months?" The quiet hurt in his voice made Madison regret her outburst. "I don't know how to see you, Ethan. You've been nothing but kind, but I still don't understand why. Why us? Why me, of all people?" Ethan was silent for a long moment before responding. "When I found you that night, something changed for me. Seeing you and the girls, so vulnerable but still a family despite everything, it woke me up from a kind of sleepwalking I'd been doing for years. Success, wealth, power. I had all of these things, but my life was empty of what really matters." He gestured around at the imposing library. "This house was just a showcase, not a home. Then you three arrived and suddenly there was laughter in the hallways, drawings on the refrigerator, real conversations over dinner instead of business calls. You didn't just receive help, Madison. You gave it, though you may not have realized it." The sincerity in his voice was undeniable. Still, Madison struggled with the implications. "So we're, what? Your ready-made family experiment?" Ethan shook his head, frustration evident. "That's not fair. I've never treated you or the girls as experiments. I've tried to respect your independence, your goals, your boundaries. But yes, I've grown to care about all of you." "Is that so?" Hard to believe. The question struck at the heart of Madison's resistance. It wasn't that she couldn't believe in Ethan's genuine care. It was that she was afraid to believe in it. "I'm scared," she admitted finally. "Scared that the girls will get hurt when this all ends. Scared that I'll complete my degree and you'll expect us to just move on. Scared that I'm starting to need you in ways that aren't sustainable." Ethan leaned forward, closing the emotional distance between them. "Madison, I don't have all the answers about what the future holds, but I do know that I don't want you and the girls to just move on when you've achieved your goals. Whatever relationship we build, friendship, family, something else entirely, I want it to be because we all choose it, not because of obligation or dependency." Madison nodded slowly, some tension easing from her shoulders. "I think that's all any of us can do right now. Take each day as it comes and be honest about what we're feeling." "Agreed," Ethan said, a small smile returning. And right now, what I'm feeling is that you should probably get back to studying for that midterm while I go check that the girls haven't convinced Mrs. Martinez to let them sleep in their new costumes." As Ethan rose to leave, he paused, his hand resting lightly on the back of her chair. "Madison, for what it's worth, I think you're doing an amazing job. As a mother, as a student, as a woman rebuilding her life. Whatever happens between us, that doesn't change." After Ethan had gone, Madison stared at her textbook. The equations suddenly less intimidating than the emotional calculations she had been wrestling with. Progress, she reminded herself, often came with growing pains. In academics, in personal development, and especially in relationships that defied easy categorization. November brought an early winter chill to Reynolds Manor. Madison stood at her bedroom window, watching the twins build a snowman with Mrs. Martinez's help, their colorful winter gear bright against the monochrome backdrop. The delicate equilibrium between Madison and Ethan was disrupted by a text message that arrived as Madison was reviewing her notes for business strategy. Unknown. Number. "Do you really think he sees you as an equal? Ask him about his lunch meeting. Yesterday with Claudia Harrington. Some things never change, not even Ethan Reynolds." Attached was a photograph showing Ethan seated across from an elegant blonde woman in an upscale restaurant, their heads inclined toward each other in what appeared to be intimate conversation. Madison stared at the message, her stomach clenching with an emotion she wasn't ready to identify as jealousy. It wasn't just the photograph, but the implication behind it, that Ethan was presenting one face to her and another to the world. By the time Ethan returned home that evening, Madison had worked herself into a state of anxious confusion. "There you are," Ethan said warmly, finding Madison in the library. "The girls told me about their snowman construction project. Apparently, it's named Sir Frosty and has diplomatic relations with the bird feeder." His easy manner only heightened Madison's disquiet. How could he be so normal if he was indeed hiding something? "Who is Claudia Harrington?" Madison asked directly. Ethan's expression registered momentary surprise before settling into cautious neutrality. "She's a consultant we're considering. Hiring for the Stevens project. Real estate development specialists. Why do you ask?" Madison held out her phone. "This came today. Apparently someone thinks I should know about your lunch meetings." Ethan scanned the message, his brow furrowing. When he looked up, there was no guilt in his expression, only concern and a flicker of anger directed not at Madison but at the sender. "That was indeed a business lunch," he confirmed. "Claudia heads a firm that specializes in sustainable urban development, expertise we need for our project." The explanation was straightforward and plausible. Part of Madison wanted to accept it immediately, but another part, shaped by Tyler's abandonment and years of subsequent struggles, resisted. "The message implies there's something more," she persisted. "Something I don't know about you." Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "Madison, I'm not hiding anything. The message was clearly sent to create exactly this situation, doubt, suspicion, distance between us. And I think I know who sent it." "Who?" "Jason Cooper," Ethan replied. "He was fired from Reynolds Enterprises about 6 months ago for ethical violations, attempting to bribe a city official. He's been making noise ever since, threatening to expose me, though there's nothing to expose." The explanation added context that made the anonymous message seem less sinister. Still, Madison couldn't shake the underlying anxiety it had triggered, not just about Claudia Harrington, but about the fundamental inequity in her relationship with Ethan. "Even if this message is meaningless," she said slowly, "it raises questions I've been avoiding. You're a successful, wealthy businessman with an entire life I know little about. I'm a formerly homeless single mother living in your house, studying with your financial support. The imbalance is significant. Madison, I've never seen our relationship in those terms. Yes, I have resources that I've shared, but you've contributed equally in ways that matter more, bringing life to this house, showing me what real strength looks like, teaching me about priorities through how you parent the girls." The sincerity in his voice was unmistakable, but Madison found herself questioning everything now, including her own judgment. Had she allowed herself to be blinded by gratitude? "How do I know that?" she challenged. "How do I know this isn't all just charity wrapped in pretty words? Or worse, some kind of long game to—" She broke off, unwilling to articulate the most cynical interpretation, that Ethan's interest might be predatory rather than compassionate. Ethan's expression hardened, genuine hurt flashing in his eyes. "Is that really what you think of me? After all these months, after everything we've shared? You still believe I might have some ulterior motive?" The pain in his voice made Madison regret her words, but she couldn't fully retract them. The anonymous message had tapped into doubts that had been simmering beneath the surface. "I don't know what to think anymore," she admitted, her voice smaller than she would have liked. "I've been burned before, Ethan, badly, and the stakes aren't just about me, they're about Sophia and Lily, too. If this all falls apart somehow—" Ethan was silent for a long moment, his expression shifting from hurt to something more measured. "I understand your caution," he said finally. "I even respect it. It's what makes you such a good mother. But at some point, Madison, trust has to enter the equation. Not blind trust, but the kind built on observed patterns and consistent actions. I've tried to earn that trust every day since you and the girls came into my life." "I need some time," Madison said, the words feeling inadequate, "to think, to sort through all of this." "Of course, take whatever time you need." He turned to leave, then paused at the door. "For what it's worth, Madison, I've never been more certain of anything than I am of what you and the girls mean to me. Whatever you decide to believe about that message or about me, that truth doesn't change." After he had gone, Madison stared at her phone, at the anonymous message that had cracked the foundation of trust she had been slowly building with Ethan. With sudden resolve, she dialed the unknown number. "I don't know who you are or what you hope to accomplish," she said after the voicemail beep, "but I'm not interested in anonymous hints or second-hand gossip. If you have something real to say it directly. Otherwise, don't contact me again." She ended the call feeling slightly empowered by the small act of defiance. Still, the damage had been done. The comfortable bubble of security and growing affection that had characterized her relationship with Ethan now felt punctured. As she passed the twins' room, Madison paused, listening to the sound of their even breathing in sleep. They deserved stability, security, love, all the things Madison had been fighting to provide since their birth. In Ethan, they had found a figure who offered those things without reservation. Was she right to question his motives, or was she justified in her caution, in remembering that nothing in life came without cost, that dependency always carried risk, especially for women and children who had already experienced abandonment? Madison had no clear answers as she finally settled into her own bed. But one thing had become evident. The complex relationship she had developed with Ethan Reynolds could no longer exist in the undefined space of gratitude and growing attachment. Decisions would need to be made, the future faced with clear eyes rather than comfortable ambiguity. 2 days of frigid silence followed the confrontation in the library. On the third morning, Madison found an envelope slipped beneath her bedroom door. The results of a private investigation into Jason Cooper, confirming Ethan's explanation of the disgruntled former employee and documenting a pattern of similar harassment. Attached was a handwritten note. "Madison, I hope this provides some context for the message you received. I understand your caution and respect your need for space and time. When you're ready to talk, if you're ready, I'll be here. No pressure, no expectations, just truth. Ethan." The gesture was typical of Ethan. Thoughtful, direct, neither. Demanding resolution nor avoiding the issue. The evidence supported his explanation, suggesting that the text she had received was indeed part of a vindictive campaign, rather than a genuine warning. Madison set the documents aside with mixed feelings. While the immediate question seemed resolved, the larger issues remained. The fundamental imbalance in their relationship, the uncertain future they were building, the potential impact on the twins. It was during her business ethics class that Madison found unexpected clarity. Professor Grant was discussing asymmetrical power dynamics in professional relationships. The ethical challenge, Professor Grant explained, isn't the existence of the imbalance itself. Many relationships begin with power asymmetry. The challenge is in how both parties acknowledge and address that imbalance over time. The words resonated so directly that Madison found herself leaning forward. In the most successful cases, the initially empowered party works consciously to equalize the relationship through transparency, respect for boundaries, and genuine empowerment of the other party. Meanwhile, the initially less empowered party must practice discernment, distinguishing between manipulation and authentic support. Madison's thoughts flew to Ethan, to his consistent efforts to support her independence rather than foster dependence, to provide options rather than dictate outcomes, to respect her boundaries even when they created distance. Had she been fair in her assessment of his motives? The ultimate test, Professor Grant concluded, is whether both parties emerge stronger, more capable, and more fully themselves through the relationship. Does the dynamic diminish or enhance each individual's agency and potential? The answer reveals the ethical character of the relationship, regardless of how it began. By the time her final class ended, Madison had reached a decision. She needed to speak with Ethan directly, honestly, without the defensive barriers she had maintained. Only through complete transparency could they navigate the complex territory they had entered together. When she arrived home, however, the house was unusually quiet. Mrs. Martinez informed her that Ethan had been delayed in the city due to an emergency board meeting. Hours passed with no word from him. By 10 o'clock, Madison found herself restless, unable to focus on her textbooks. On impulse, she made her way to Ethan's home office, a space she rarely entered out of respect for his privacy. As she was about to retreat, her gaze fell on a photograph she had never noticed before, positioned on Ethan's desk where he would see it daily. It was a candid shot of Madison and the twins in the garden. Sophia was mid-laugh, her head thrown back in joy. Lily was smiling her rare, full smile, secure in the circle of Madison's arm, and Madison herself looked more relaxed, more present than she had in years. The sight of the photograph, not displayed publicly but kept in Ethan's private workspace, affected Madison deeply. It wasn't staged for appearances. It was simply a captured moment of authentic joy that Ethan had chosen to keep close. The sound of the front door announced his return. Madison quickly exited the office and met Ethan in the main hallway. He looked exhausted, his suit rumpled, his expression drawn with fatigue and stress. "Madison," he said, surprise evident in his voice, "I thought you'd be asleep by now." "I was waiting up," she admitted. "Mrs. Martinez said there was some crisis with the Stevens project." Ethan nodded, loosening his tie wearily. "The main investor pulled out at the last minute. We spent the day trying to salvage the deal or find alternative funding." His obvious exhaustion stirred Madison's compassion, temporarily setting aside the weightier conversation she had been planning. "Have you eaten? I could make you something." A small smile touched Ethan's lips. "Thank you, but I grabbed something at the office. What I really need is a shower and about 12 hours of sleep." Madison nodded, about to wish him good night, when a sudden impulse overcame her reticence. "Ethan, I saw the investigation report about Jason Cooper. Thank you for that. You deserve to know the truth. I hope it helped clarify things." "It did," Madison acknowledged. "But we still need to talk, really talk about everything. When you're not exhausted and I'm not reacting from old fears." The simple request seemed to lift some weight from Ethan's shoulders. "I'd like that." "Tomorrow? After you're done with classes?" Madison nodded, a tentative smile forming. "Tomorrow. The girls are spending the afternoon at their playgroup, so we'll have some privacy." "For what it's worth, Madison, I've missed our conversations these past few days. The real ones, not just the polite exchanges in front of the twins. I've missed them too," she confessed, "more than I expected to." As Madison returned to her room, she felt lighter than she had in days. Whatever emerged from their talk, friendship, something more, or perhaps a gentle parting of ways, it would be based on truth rather than assumptions, on direct communication rather than fears and projections. The following afternoon brought unexpected sunshine, a brief respite from the November chill. Madison returned from her morning classes to find Ethan waiting in the garden, seated on a stone bench near the dormant rose bushes. He wore casual
clothes, jeans and a sweater rather than his usual. It cleared his schedule for their conversation. He could talk on here. He said that she wished the desert sun season would be warm and somehow important.
conversations feel less confined in open spaces. Madison nodded, settling beside him with a deliberate small gap between them. Close enough for intimacy of conversation, but with space that acknowledged the delicate nature of what they needed to discuss. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened," she began, deciding that directness was the kindest approach. "About the message, about my reaction, about everything that led to that moment." Ethan remained silent, giving her the space to gather and express her thoughts without interruption. "I realize now that it wasn't really about the photograph or Claudia Harrington," she continued. "Those were just catalysts that brought up deeper issues I've been avoiding, questions about what we're doing here, about the nature of our relationship, about the future." "Those are fair questions," Ethan acknowledged, "ones I've been considering too." The admission encouraged Madison to continue. "When I first came here with the girls, everything was simpler. You were helping us through a crisis, offering shelter until we could get back on our feet. But somewhere along the line it became more complex. The girls have grown attached to you. I've grown to depend on our conversations, on your presence in our daily lives, and I'm not sure what that means for any of us long term." "I understand that uncertainty," Ethan replied. "What began as a straightforward offer of help has evolved into something neither of us anticipated. The question is whether that evolution is something we want to continue or something we need to redirect." "Before I can answer that," Madison said, "I need to understand your perspective better. Why did you really stop that night, Ethan? Why did you bring us home with you? And what do you want from this relationship now?" Ethan took a deep breath, as if gathering courage for complete candor. "I stopped that night because something in me recognized you, not just as Madison Wilson from high school, but as someone who mattered, someone connected to me in ways I couldn't immediately identify. Bringing you and the girls home wasn't calculated. It was instinctive, like finally acting in alignment with who I actually am rather than who I'd been pretending to be." He paused before continuing. "As for what I want now, I want to be part of your lives, Madison, not as a benefactor or a temporary solution, but as someone who stays, someone who gets to see the twins grow up, who gets to support your journey, who gets to build something lasting with all of you, in whatever capacity you're comfortable with." The sincerity in his voice was unmistakable, touching something deep within Madison that had been protected for too long. Yet questions remained, practical concerns that needed addressing beyond emotional truths. "And how would that work?" she asked. "I'll graduate eventually, the girls will start school. I'll need to build my own career, establish my own household. The current arrangement isn't sustainable indefinitely." "No, it isn't," Ethan agreed. "But there are other possibilities. You could continue living here while building your career, gradually transitioning to genuine partnership rather than dependency. Or we could explore other living arrangements that maintain our connection while giving you the independence you value." Madison considered his words, appreciating both their honesty and their respect for her autonomy. "And what about your life? Your career? Your social circle?" "I'm a formerly homeless single mother with twin daughters and an incomplete degree. That's quite a departure from the world you've built for yourself." Ethan turned to face her directly, his expression suddenly intense. "Madison, the world I've built was hollow at its core. Successful, yes, respected, certainly. But fundamentally empty of what matters most. Genuine connection, purpose beyond profit. The kind of joy I've experienced simply watching Sophia and Lily discover a new favorite food, or listening to you talk about a concept that excited you in class." He gestured toward the mansion behind them. "All of this, the house, the company, the social position, it's meaningless if it's not in service to something deeper. Since you and the girls arrived, I've rediscovered what truly matters. I'm not willing to return to that hollow existence." The passion in his declaration was compelling, offering a glimpse of the depth of feeling beneath Ethan's typically measured exterior. Madison found herself moved by his words, yet one final barrier remained, one born of her own painful history. "I believed in fairy tales once before," she said quietly. "With Tyler. I thought he loved me, that we would build a life together. When I told him about the pregnancy, he disappeared without a backward glance. I promised myself I wouldn't be that vulnerable again, wouldn't trust someone else with our happiness so completely. I'm not Tyler, Ethan said simply, and I don't expect you to forget the lessons that experience taught you. Trust should be earned through consistent actions over time, not granted blindly based on words alone. His acknowledgement of her legitimate caution created space for Madison to voice her deepest fear. What if it doesn't work? What if we try to build something and it falls apart? The girls would be devastated. They already see you as... She hesitated, the word father too loaded to speak aloud. As someone important in their lives, Ethan finished for her, which I hope to be regardless of how our relationship evolves. I can't promise perfect outcomes, Madison. No one can. But I can promise that whatever happens between us, my commitment to Sophia and Lily's well-being would not change. They would never simply lose me from their lives without explanation or ongoing support. The promise addressed the heart of Madison's anxiety. Her daughter's emotional security had always been her primary concern, the filter through which all decisions were evaluated. So, where does that leave us? Ethan asked finally. Madison considered the question carefully, weighing both heart and mind, past experience and present reality. It leaves us in a place of possibility, she said eventually. Not rushing headlong into definitions or commitments, but not holding back out of fear either. Taking each day as it comes, building trust through actions rather than declarations, and seeing where the path leads. I can work with possibility, Ethan said, a smile warming his features. It's a significant upgrade from silent tension. Madison found herself returning his smile, the weight of recent days lifting from her shoulders. Agreed. And Ethan? Thank you for your patience through all of this. Not everyone would have given me the space to work through my concerns without defensiveness or ultimatums. Not everyone has as much at stake, he replied simply. You and the girls are worth being patient for. The straightforward declaration touched Madison deeply. Before she could respond, the sound of a car approaching signaled the twins return from their playgroup. Ready to rejoin family life? Ethan asked, rising from the bench and offering her his hand. The gesture was both literal and symbolic, an invitation back into the shared existence they had been building before. Doubt had created distance between them. Madison accepted his hand, allowing him to help her up. Ready, she confirmed, her fingers lingering in his for a moment longer than necessary, before they separated to greet the excited twins already racing toward them across the garden. They had not resolved every question about their future, had not defined precisely what they were becoming to each other, but they had established something perhaps more valuable, a commitment to honesty, to working through challenges together rather than retreating behind walls of assumption or fear. December transformed Reynolds Manor into a winter wonderland. Finals week had come and gone, leaving Madison exhausted but triumphant, her grades reflecting both her natural intelligence and dedicated effort. I still can't believe I got in financial analysis, Madison remarked, curled in an armchair by the library fireplace, her first semester grades displayed on her tablet. Professor Winters has a reputation for being nearly impossible to impress. Ethan smiled with evident pride. I can believe it. You've worked incredibly hard, and you have a natural aptitude for the material. I couldn't have done it without your support, Madison acknowledged. Partnership, Ethan said simply. That's all it was. The word hung between them, significant, but not overwhelming. They had been careful with terminology since their reconciliation, neither rushing to define what was developing between them, nor pretending it was merely friendship. Speaking of partnership, Ethan continued, setting down his mug with deliberate casualness, I have a proposition for you, a professional one, he clarified quickly. I'm listening, Madison replied, intrigued. Reynolds Enterprises is launching a new initiative next month, a foundation focused on homelessness prevention and family support services. We're creating housing assistance programs, childcare subsidies, educational opportunities and employment pathways specifically designed for families at risk of homelessness or trying to rebuild after experiencing it? Madison's interest deepened as she recognized the personal connection driving the initiative. That sounds incredible, but what does it have to do with me? I'd like you to join the foundation team, Ethan said directly. Initially as a paid intern while you continue your studies, with the potential for a permanent position after graduation, if it's something you find fulfilling. The offer was unexpected, momentarily leaving Madison speechless. When she found her voice, caution tempered her evident interest. Why me specifically? I don't have experience in non-profit work or foundation management. But you have something more valuable, Ethan countered, lived experience. You know firsthand what families in crisis need. Not just shelter and food, but dignity, agency, practical pathways forward, rather than temporary band-aids. Your perspective would be invaluable in shaping programs that actually work for the people they're meant to serve. One concern remained paramount. What about the twins? An internship would mean hours away from them, on top of my class schedule. The foundation will have an on-site childcare center for employees, Ethan explained. The girls could come with you when you're working, and the hours would be flexible, designed to accommodate your academic schedule. Madison considered the proposal, recognizing both its professional potential and personal significance. This isn't charity disguised as employment, is it? It absolutely is not, Ethan interrupted firmly. This is a legitimate position with real responsibilities and commensurate compensation. Your qualifications are your intelligence, your first-hand knowledge, and your demonstrated ability to analyze complex problems and develop practical solutions. His adamant response reassured Madison. Over the months, she had become adept at distinguishing Ethan's genuine respect from performative consideration. In that case, she said carefully, I'm interested. Very interested, actually. When would this start? The foundation officially launches mid-January. You could start as soon as the spring semester begins, working whatever hours fit with your class schedule. The opportunity represented everything Madison had hoped for: meaningful work connected to her personal journey, flexible conditions that accommodated her role as a mother, and legitimate career development. The fact that it came through Ethan added a layer of personal significance without compromising its professional legitimacy. I'd like to see the formal job description, Madison said, and I'd want to interview with whoever would be my direct supervisor, not just with you. Ethan nodded approvingly. I wouldn't have it any other way. Catherine Chen is heading the foundation. She's brilliant, compassionate, and absolutely unimpressed by my position. She'll interview you properly, and if she doesn't think you're right for the role, my opinion won't change that. Then yes, Madison decided. I'd like to pursue this. Thank you for thinking of me. Their conversation was interrupted by the exuberant arrival of the twins, bundled in winter gear and accompanied by Mrs. Martinez following an afternoon of snow activities. Mommy, Ethan, we made snow angels and threw snowballs, Sophia announced, her cheeks flushed with cold and excitement. As they gathered around the Christmas tree that evening, Madison allowed herself to fully inhabit the moment, to accept the joy without qualification or fear of its loss. Whatever challenges lay ahead, this moment, this perfect alignment of belonging and possibility, was real, and it was enough. January brought with it not just a new year, but a new chapter in Madison's evolving life story. The spring semester began with a reinvigorated academic focus, her first semester success providing both validation and motivation. Alongside her studies, Madison stepped into her role at the Reynolds Foundation with a combination of excitement and determination. Catherine Chen, the foundation's executive director, had proven to be exactly as Ethan described: brilliant, compassionate, and refreshingly direct. Their initial interview had established an immediate professional rapport, with Catherine clearly evaluating Madison on her own merits. 3 weeks into her internship, Madison found herself fully immersed in the foundation's mission, contributing to program design with insights born from lived experience. The foundation's offices occupied the renovated third floor of a historic building downtown, with the promised childcare center occupying a sunny corner. Ms. Wilson, do you have a moment? Madison looked up to find Dr. James Harrison, the foundation's research director, standing in her office doorway. A former sociology professor with decades of experience studying urban poverty, he had initially seemed the most skeptical of her appointment. "Of course, Dr. Harrison, what can I help with?" He entered, placing a folder on her desk. "I've been reviewing your proposal for the Emergency Housing Assistance Program, your insight about requiring landlord participation in mediation before funding eviction proceedings is quite innovative. It creates accountability while still preserving dignity for families. Thank you. I was concerned it might seem too requiring of landlords, but the data suggests many evictions could be prevented with earlier intervention." Dr. Harrison nodded thoughtfully. "That's precisely what makes it effective. Too often, assistance programs focus exclusively on the family in crisis while ignoring the systemic factors. Your approach addresses both." He paused. "I've recommended to Catherine that we move your proposal forward as our flagship initiative, with you leading its implementation." After he departed, Madison sat motionless, absorbing the significance of the moment. 6 months ago, she had been homeless, dependent on charity, her education abandoned, her professional aspirations seemingly unreachable. Now she was developing programs that might help others avoid the desperation she had known. The office. Phone interrupted her reflection. "Madison Wilson speaking." "Ms. Wilson, there's someone here to see you." The receptionist's voice held an unusual note of caution. "A Mr. Tyler Davis. He doesn't have an appointment, but he's quite insistent." The name sent a shock through Madison's system. Tyler Davis, the twins' father who had walked away without a backward glance when Madison told him about her pregnancy. "Did he say what he wants?" Madison managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "Just that it's a personal matter. I can ask him to make an appointment for another day if you prefer." Madison considered declining, protecting herself from whatever disruption Tyler's sudden appearance might create, but curiosity mingled with a strange sense of emerging strength. Perhaps it was time to face this ghost from her past. "No, it's all right. Please send him to my office." When Tyler finally appeared in her doorway, the contrast between memory and reality was jarring. Tyler Davis had been the golden boy of their high school, athletic, charismatic, seemingly destined for success. The man who stood before her now appeared diminished somehow, his once confident posture slightly hunched, his boyish good looks hardened by what appeared to be years of hard living. "Madison." Her name emerged as a half-question. "You look different." "It's been 4 years, Tyler," Madison replied, her tone professional rather than accusatory. "Please, sit down. What brings you here?" "I've been trying to find you for a while. Someone mentioned seeing you with Ethan Reynolds at some charity event, said you were working for his foundation." "I am employed by the Reynolds Foundation," she confirmed. "We focus on homelessness prevention and family support services. Now, what can I help you with?" Tyler shifted uncomfortably. "I've been doing some thinking lately, about the past, about choices I made, about the baby." "Babies," Madison corrected automatically. "Twins, girls, Sophia and Lily. They're 4 now." The correction seemed to momentarily unbalance Tyler. "Right, twins. Look, I know I handled everything badly back then. I was young, scared, not ready for that kind of responsibility. I started thinking that maybe it's time I stepped up, you know? Got to know my daughters." He stumbled slightly, over the word, as if trying it on for size. The request struck Madison with unexpected force. 4 years of single parenthood, of building a life without Tyler's contribution or interest, had convinced her that this moment would never come. "Tyler," she began carefully, "I appreciate that you're trying to make better choices. But Sophia and Lily aren't abstract concepts or opportunities for redemption. They're real children, with established lives and routines. They've never even met you." Tyler's expression hardened slightly. "They're my kids too, Madison. I have rights." "Rights you've never exercised," Madison pointed out, maintaining her composure. "You've provided no financial support, no emotional presence, no acknowledgement of their existence until today. Why now, Tyler? What's really brought you here after 4 years of silence? I told you I'm trying to do better, and honestly, I saw you with Reynolds in that newspaper photo, looking like you'd won the lottery or something. made me think. Maybe I'd made a mistake, walking away from what could have been my family. The admission revealed more than Tyler perhaps intended, not genuine interest in the twins, but regret at missing out on the apparent success Madison had found. Madison studied him for a long moment, weighing complex considerations. The twins' potential interest in knowing their biological father someday, the disruption his unreliable presence might cause in their lives, the legal complexities his sudden claim of interest might create. "I need to think about this," she said finally. "My primary concern is the well-being of Sophia and Lily. If, and that's a significant if, I consider allowing you to meet them, it would need to happen gradually, with appropriate preparation and boundaries." "That's fair. I can respect that. Maybe we could get coffee sometime. Talk more about how it could work." They parted with a tentative plan to meet the following week. As Madison watched Tyler walk away, she felt neither triumph nor anxiety, but a quiet certainty that she had navigated the unexpected encounter with wisdom, born of both painful experience and hard-won growth. When she arrived at her office, Madison found Ethan waiting, his expression revealing both concern and determined restraint from interference. They had discussed Tyler's sudden reappearance and Madison's decision to meet with him, Ethan offering support without attempting to influence her choices. "How did it go?" he asked simply as Madison settled behind her desk. "Better than I feared. Not as well as I might have hoped. He wants to meet the girls, but I'm not convinced his interest will sustain itself through the gradual process I've outlined as a condition." "And how do you feel about the possibility of him becoming part of their lives?" The question cut to the heart of the matter, not just the logistical challenges, but the emotional complexity his presence would create in the family structure Madison was establishing. "I don't fear him anymore," she realized aloud. "Not his presence or his absence. 4 years ago, his abandonment devastated me, made me question my worth and judgment. Now it just seems like a painful chapter in a much longer story, one where I discovered my own strength and built something meaningful from the broken pieces." "That sounds like freedom," Ethan observed quietly. "It is," Madison agreed, the simple acknowledgement resonating deeply. "Whatever happens with Tyler, whether he follows through on meeting the girls or disappears again, I know we'll be okay. Not because of external circumstances, but because we've built something solid from within." The foundation she had established, through education, meaningful work, emotional growth and genuine connection, couldn't be shaken by external forces in the way her previous life had been. The security she had found wasn't dependent on any single person or circumstance. It resided within her, portable and enduring. The Capital Cafe bustled with lunchtime activity as Madison waited for Tyler's arrival. She had chosen the location, deliberately, public enough to maintain boundaries, busy enough to prevent excessive intimacy, neutral territory that belonged to neither of their worlds. When Tyler finally appeared 10 minutes late, Madison noted both his attempt at presentable appearance, neatly pressed shirt, recently cut hair, and the signs of nervous energy in his movements. "Sorry I'm late," he offered, settling into the chair across from her. "Traffic was worse than I expected." Once they were alone, Madison decided on directness. "I've been thinking about your request to meet Sophia and Lily. Before we discuss possibilities, I need to understand what you're actually proposing. What kind of relationship are you looking to establish with them?" The question seemed to catch Tyler off guard. "I guess I figured we'd start slow. Maybe I could see them occasionally, get to know them a bit, see how it goes." "See how it goes isn't a plan, Tyler," Madison replied. "These are children whose emotional well-being is at stake. They have no concept of you as their biological father. Introducing you into their lives would be a significant event that requires clear intentions and boundaries." Tyler's expression shifted from surprise to defensiveness. "Look, I'm trying here. I know I messed up before, but I'm making an effort now. Isn't that worth something?" "Effort is a starting point, not an achievement," Madison said. "The twins aren't a redemption project or a second chance to feel good about yourself. They're people, small vulnerable people who have established lives and routines that work for them. Any disruption to that needs to serve their interests, not yours or mine." I get it, Tyler said after taking a bite of his sandwich. You've got a good thing going now. Reynolds' money, fancy job at his foundation. You don't want me messing up the fairy tale. The attempt to reframe her caution as selfishness merely clarified the gap between Tyler's perception and reality, between the man he remained and the woman she had become. My concern is for Sophia and Lily, she stated evenly. And yes, we have built a stable life after years of struggle that began when you walked away from your responsibilities. That stability is precious to me because I know what it's like to lose it. So yes, I'm cautious about introducing any unpredictable elements into their lives. Tyler looked momentarily ashamed. I said I was sorry about that. I was young, scared, not ready to be a father. I wasn't ready to be a mother, Madison countered, but readiness doesn't always align with reality. Parenthood happened regardless of my preparation for it. When Tyler spoke again, his tone had shifted from defensive to something closer to genuine. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be a father, especially not to kids I've never met. But I want to try. Maybe not for the right reasons at first, but I'm here now. Doesn't that count for something? It counts as a beginning, Madison acknowledged. But beginning is the easiest part, Tyler. Following through is what matters. Being consistent, reliable, putting their needs before your comfort or convenience. Parenthood is a marathon, not a sprint. So where does that leave us? Are you saying I can never meet them? No, I'm saying that if you want to meet them, it needs to happen within a framework that protects their emotional well-being. That means starting as a friend of mine, not immediately as their father. It means consistent, scheduled visits they can count on, not appearing and disappearing based on your enthusiasm of the moment. And it means respecting the family structure they already have, including Ethan's role in their lives. The last condition clearly struck a nerve, Tyler's expression tightening at the mention of Ethan. So he's playing daddy now? Convenient package deal, you and the kids. Madison kept her response measured. Ethan has been consistently present in their lives for months, earning their trust through reliable care and genuine interest in who they are as individuals. Whatever his relationship with me, his commitment to Sophia and Lily's well-being is sincere and demonstrated daily. They care about him, and he cares about them. That's a reality you'll need to accept if you want to be part of their lives. Tyler seemed about to argue, but apparently thought better of it. So what are you proposing exactly? How would this work? Madison outlined the approach she had carefully considered. Initial meetings in neutral settings with her present. Gradually, building to more direct interaction, if those went well, always with clear boundaries and consistent scheduling. No declarations of biological fatherhood until the twins had developed comfort with Tyler as a person, and Madison had assessed his commitment to remaining involved. That could take months, Tyler objected. Yes, Madison agreed simply. Building meaningful relationships usually does, especially with children who have no reason to automatically trust you. They parted with a tentative plan for the museum visit the following weekend, Tyler's commitment to be punctual emphasized by Madison as a non-negotiable condition. As she watched him walk away, Madison felt a quiet certainty that she had navigated the unexpected encounter with wisdom, born of both painful experience and hard-won growth. Spring blossomed across the city, transforming bare branches to vibrant green and painting landscapes with bursts of color that mirrored the flourishing of Madison's reconstructed life. The semester was drawing to a close, her academic performance continuing to excel, even as her role at the Reynolds Foundation expanded from intern to official program director for the Family Resilience Initiative she had designed. One afternoon, Ethan appeared in her office doorway, his expression containing barely restrained excitement. "Do you have a moment?" "Of course. What brings you to the foundation offices? I thought you had meetings at Reynolds Enterprises all afternoon." Ethan entered, closing the door behind him before taking the seat across from her desk. "I've just come from the final meeting with the university representatives. It's official. They're establishing the scholarship program we proposed. 5 full-ride scholarships annually for parents re-entering education after significant life disruptions, with childcare stipends and housing assistance included. The scholarship initiative had been a passion project for both of them. Ethan providing the financial backing and university connections, Madison contributing the structural insights about what would make such opportunities genuinely accessible to parents like her former self. "That's incredible," she managed finally. "When will they announce it?" "At next month's commencement ceremony," Ethan replied. "They've asked if you would be willing to speak briefly at the announcement, as both a program architect and someone who exemplifies the journey these scholarships are designed to support." Pride mingled with momentary apprehension at the prospect of such public visibility. "I'd be honored," she said after brief consideration, "though I'm hardly the poster child for educational persistence. I haven't even completed my degree yet." "But you will," Ethan countered with absolute certainty. "You've maintained exceptional grades while working and parenting. You're exactly the kind of student these scholarships are designed to support." "There's something else," Ethan added. "The university has asked what the scholarship should be called. I'd like to name it after you. The Madison Wilson Scholarship for Parent Scholars." The suggestion caught Madison completely off guard. "After me? Ethan, I don't know what to say." Madison sat with the suggestion, allowing herself to feel both the honor it represented and the responsibility it would entail. To become not just a success story, but a namesake, a symbol for others facing similar challenges. It was both humbling and empowering to consider. "I'll think about it," she promised. "It's a profound honor to even be considered." The journey with Tyler had also progressed with unexpected steadiness over the past months. The initial museum meeting had been awkward but civil, followed by increasingly comfortable interactions as he maintained the consistent schedule Madison had established. The twins had accepted him as Mommy's friend Tyler without particular enthusiasm or resistance, their young lives already full of secure attachments. Ethan had navigated the situation with remarkable grace, never attempting to compete with Tyler for the twins' attention or affection, secure in the relationship he had built with them through months of genuine presence. More surprising had been Tyler's gradual apparent maturation through the process. The consistency required by Madison's conditions seemed to be developing muscles of responsibility he had previously lacked. He had maintained his sobriety, secured a promotion at his uncle's construction company, and even enrolled in evening classes at the community college, small steps that suggested genuine effort to rebuild his life. Madison harbored no romantic illusions about reconciliation. That chapter was firmly closed. But she had begun to consider that Tyler might eventually earn a more defined place in the twins' lives, not as a replacement for the family structure they had established with Ethan, but as an additional source of support. The complexity of these evolving relationships reflected Madison's growing comfort with creating her own definition of family based on authentic care rather than societal templates. It was another form of the independence she had been seeking, the freedom to design her life according to what actually worked, rather than what convention dictated. Later that evening, after the twins were settled in bed, Madison and Ethan retreated to the small back porch where they often shared quiet moments. The spring evening was mild. The garden Madison had started beginning to show promise of summer blooms under the soft outdoor lighting. "I've been thinking about the scholarship naming," Madison said after a comfortable silence. "It's an incredible honor, but I'm not sure my name should be attached to something you're funding." "Why not?" Ethan asked. "Because you're the one to making it possible," Madison explained. "Your resources, your connections with the university. I've just contributed some ideas about structure." "Ideas that make the entire program viable," Ethan countered gently. "Without your insights about what actually works for parents facing these challenges, it would be just another well-intentioned but impractical initiative. The money is the least significant part of what makes this meaningful. Perhaps we could compromise, name it for both of us." Ethan's smile held deep satisfaction that Madison had included herself in the legacy rather than deflecting recognition. "The Wilson Reynolds Scholarship for Parent Scholars. I think that has an excellent ring to it." The proposed name represented more than just a program title. It symbolized the partnership they had forged, from its unlikely beginnings in crisis to its current manifestation in meaningful collaboration. Neither wholly dependent nor completely independent, but interdependent in the healthiest sense, each bringing unique strengths to create something greater than either could accomplish alone. "I like it," Madison agreed, "and I think it captures what makes the program special, the combination of resources with real-world understanding of the challenges." The simple observation opened a door Madison had been approaching cautiously for months, the question of how to define what had developed between them beyond professional collaboration and co-parenting partnership. "Ethan," she began, gathering courage for the conversation they had both been circling. "What are we doing? I mean, beyond the day-to-day that we've figured out so well. Where is this going?" "I've been wondering when we might talk about that," he replied. "I didn't want to pressure you, to make you feel like there were expectations attached to everything we've built together." "I know," Madison acknowledged, appreciating his consistent respect for her autonomy. "And I've needed that space to find my feet, to establish independence alongside connection. But lately I've been thinking that maybe we've been so careful about definitions that we've avoided naming what's actually happening." "And what do you think is happening, Madison?" "I think we've become a family," she said simply. "Not in the conventional sense, perhaps, but in all the ways that matter. You're part of the twins' lives in a fundamental way, and you've become essential to mine too, not because I need you to survive anymore, but because life is richer and more meaningful with you in it." "I feel the same way," Ethan said finally. "You and the girls have transformed my understanding of what matters, of what makes a life worthwhile. I don't want to go back to existence without you, any of you, in it." "So what happens next?" Madison asked, pragmatic despite the emotional significance of their exchange. "We've been in this in-between space for months, not living together, but sharing most of our life, not defining our relationship, but clearly committed to each other in meaningful ways." "What would you like to happen next?" Ethan asked. "This has always been about your choices, Madison, your readiness, your comfort with each step forward." "I think," she began, the words emerging with surprising clarity, "that I'd like us to stop maintaining the fiction of separate lives when we're really building one together. The girls and I have needed our own space as part of establishing independence, but that space has served its purpose. We're ready for something more integrated, more honest about what we mean to each other." "What would that look like for you?" he asked. "Moving back to the manor, finding a new place together? I want whatever arrangement makes you feel both secure and free at the same time." The question represented exactly why Madison had grown to love this man. His ability to consider both emotional and practical dimensions, to offer support without imposing solutions. "I think a new place," she decided. "Somewhere that belongs to all of us from the beginning, rather than one of us joining the other's established space. Somewhere that reflects who we are together, not just who we were separately." Ethan nodded, understanding the symbolic importance of creating something new together, rather than one party simply being absorbed into the other's existing life. "I like that idea very much. A fresh start that honors everything that brought us to this point." Autumn painted the university campus in brilliant hues of crimson and gold, nature's celebratory backdrop for the culmination of Madison's long-deferred educational journey. The graduation ceremony for December completers was smaller than the traditional spring commencement, creating an atmosphere of intimate celebration. Madison sat among her fellow graduates, the distinctive hood of her business administration degree draped over her shoulders, her thoughts alternating between present pride and reflective amazement at the path that had brought her to this milestone. In the audience sat a constellation of support that would have seemed impossible 2 years earlier. Ethan, beaming with unrestrained pride, Sophia and Lily, now nearly 6, Catherine Chen and several colleagues from the Reynolds Foundation, and even Tyler, whose tentative re-entry into their lives had stabilized into a defined role as the twins' father, present but peripheral, involved but not central to their daily existence. When her name was called, Madison Eleanor Wilson, Bachelor of Business Administration, summa cum laude, the formal occasion was briefly interrupted by enthusiastic cheering from the twins, their high voices carrying clearly through the auditorium. A ripple of appreciative laughter moved through the assembly. the formal occasion momentarily brightened by genuine familial joy. After the ceremony, Madison was momentarily overwhelmed by the contrast between this achievement and the circumstances that had preceded it. 2 years earlier, she had been homeless, hopeless, huddled with her daughters beneath a bookstore awning as rain fell mercilessly around them. Now she stood robed in academic regalia, surrounded by loved ones, her professional future secure and promising. "Mommy, you did it!" Sophia reached her first, typically exuberant in her congratulations. "Your hat is so fancy. Can I try it on?" "Me too," Lily added, more restrained, but equally excited. "You looked so important walking across the stage." Madison crouched to their level, careful of her graduation cap as she embraced them both. "Thank you, my loves. And yes, you can both try the cap on later when we get home." Home, the word, carried layers of meaning beyond its simple syllable. In the month since her conversation with Ethan on the porch, they had found and renovated a charming craftsman house midway between the foundation offices and the twins' school. Neither as imposing as Reynolds Manor, nor as modest as the transitional house Madison had briefly established, it represented the middle path they had consciously chosen, comfortable without ostentation, spacious without excess, a true reflection of the balanced life they were building together. "Congratulations, graduate." Ethan's voice drew her attention upward. He stood watching her with the twins, his expression a complex blend of pride, love, and something that looked remarkably like awe. "You've done what you set out to do." "We've done it," she corrected gently. "I couldn't have completed this journey alone." "You could have," Ethan countered with characteristic respect for her strength. "It would have been harder and slower, but you would have found a way. That's who you are, Madison. Someone who creates paths where others see only walls." As the gathering moved to the restaurant where Ethan had arranged a celebration lunch, Madison found herself briefly separated from the others, creating a moment of quiet reflection amidst the day's festivities. She stood watching her assembled loved ones, a scene that embodied everything she had once believed beyond her reach. Not just material security, but genuine community, meaningful work, and authentic connection. "Penny, for your thoughts?" Ethan's voice drew her from her reflection as he joined her in the quiet corner. "You seemed miles away for a moment." Madison smiled, leaning slightly into his familiar presence. "Not miles. Years, maybe. I was thinking about the night you found us, about the woman I was then compared to who I am now. The external changes are obvious, but it's the internal shift that feels most significant. From survival to thriving," Ethan observed. "From isolation to connection. From reacting to circumstances to creating your own path." "Exactly," Madison agreed. "And not just for me, but for the girls, too. Watching them bloom into these confident, curious little people. It's the achievement I'm most proud of, even more than the degree." "As it should be," Ethan affirmed. "Though perhaps the most remarkable transformation has been in how you see yourself, not as someone defined by what happened to you, but as someone who determines what happens next." Before she could respond, Sophia's voice called from across the room, "Mommy, Ethan, we're ready for the special surprise. Can we do it now?" Madison exchanged a questioning glance with Ethan, who simply smiled. "The girls and I prepared something for you. They've been remarkably good at keeping it secret all week." Intrigued, Madison allowed herself to be led to the center of the gathering, where the twins now stood with suspicious solemnity. Lily held a small gift box wrapped in silver paper, while Sophia clutched what appeared to be a handmade card decorated with glitter. "This is for you, Mommy," Sophia announced, "because you worked so hard and got your special graduation, and we're super proud of you." Lily offered the gift box with characteristic care. "It's from all three of us. We picked it together." Madison accepted both offerings with genuine curiosity, noting Ethan's unusual blend of nervousness and excitement. Inside the card was a message in Sophia's determined handwriting, supported by dotted outlines Ethan had created to guide her. "Dear Mommy, we are so proud of you for finishing school. You're the smartest mommy and the bravest, and we love you very much. We have a special question inside the box." love. Sophia and Lily. When Madison opened the hinged lid of the jewelry box, she found not the expected piece of jewelry, but a small handwritten note nestled in the velvet interior. In Ethan's distinctive script were the words, "Madison, you have transformed challenge into triumph, scarcity into abundance, and a chance encounter into a family bound by choice rather than obligation. Would you consider making that family official? The girls and I would be honored if you would marry me. With deepest love and admiration. Ethan." As Madison absorbed the words, she noticed what she had initially overlooked, a beautiful sapphire, ring secured in the box's center, its deep blue stone surrounded by smaller diamonds that caught the light with prismatic brilliance. "We helped choose it," Sophia whispered loudly, unable to contain her excitement. "Because blue is your favorite color, and Ethan said it matches your eyes when you're really happy. And we practiced what to say and everything," Lily added. "Do you like the surprise, Mummy?" Madison looked from the twins to Ethan, whose expression held a vulnerability seldom visible beneath his typically composed exterior. The moment crystallized everything their journey had encompassed. Crisis transformed into opportunity. Chance encounter evolved into genuine connection. Temporary shelter developed into permanent home. "I love the surprise," she managed, emotion making her voice barely audible. Then, looking directly at Ethan, she added, "And yes, yes to making official what we've been building together all along." The simplicity of her acceptance belied the profound significance it carried, not a desperate grasping at security or a conventional fulfillment of societal expectations, but a deliberate choice made from a position of strength and independence. Madison Wilson, once defined by lack and limitation, now chose partnership, not because she needed completion, but because she recognized the exponential joy of shared purpose and authentic connection. As congratulations erupted from the gathered friends and colleagues, Madison found herself centered in a moment of perfect alignment, past struggles honored rather than erased, present joy fully inhabited, future possibilities embraced with both excitement and measured wisdom. "I hope you don't mind that I involved the girls in the proposal," Ethan said later, when they found a quiet moment together. "It seemed important that they be part of this decision, since it affects them as fundamentally as it does us." "It was perfect," Madison assured him. "They've been part of every step of our journey together. It's fitting that they helped create this milestone too." Ethan nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I was thinking about full circles today, how life sometimes brings us back to similar circumstances, but with transformed perspective. The night we met, you and the girls needed shelter from a literal storm. Now we're creating permanent shelter for each other, not just physical space, but emotional sanctuary." "From crisis to choice," Madison mused. "From temporary solution to a permanent commitment. That's the real transformation, not just in circumstances, but in how we approach them." As they rejoined the celebration, Madison was struck by the tableau before her. The twins now demonstrating an improvised graduation dance for an amused audience, Tyler chatting comfortably with Catherine about the foundation's work, Mrs. Martinez sharing pictures of the girls with colleagues who had become extended family through shared purpose. What might have seemed an unlikely assemblage to outside observers represented to Madison the beautiful complexity of authentic community, connections formed not through conventional categories, but through genuine care and shared experience. As Sophia spotted her watching and waved enthusiastically, Madison moved forward with the confidence of a woman who had discovered her own worth, not despite adversity, but through her response to it. The journey from that rainy night to this moment of celebration had not been linear or without setbacks, but its arc bent undeniably toward growth, connection, and the kind of security that resided within, rather than depending solely on external circumstances. It was, Madison reflected, as she joined her daughters in their joyful movement, the most profound form of graduation, not just from formal education, but from limitation to possibility, from survival to flourishing, from desperate acceptance to confident choice. And in that transformation lay not just personal triumph, but the promise of wider impact, as her journey became part of the bridge for others, crossing similar waters from despair to dignity, from ashes to flourishing.